you still love her?
Definitely. I've always loved her.
Devil in the Family, The Fall of Ruby Franke, and okay.
How did that day begin for you?
I don't even remember. I don't remember a lot of that day. It's just a blur.
Sherry Franke not being able to remember most of that day is actually really, really common, especially when you're dealing with PTSD and these sorts of things. Your brain just is kind of like, delete, we don't need that. But you need to read The Body Keeps the Score, because just because it's not in here doesn't mean it's not on here. Last I left you, Jody has been arrested at her house with the indignation of, oh, why are you arresting me? Even though she was already on the phone with her lawyer, right? Yeah, so we knew we did something wrong. Then Ruby turns herself in later. However, she's got to make some moves first.
It was Ruby and then the heart emoji. She was calling me out of the blue. So I answered it. I was so emotional. For the first time in over a year, I was having a conversation with the woman that I loved, with my wife.
Kevin hasn't spoken to Ruby in a year. We covered a lot of that. They weren't speaking at that time, and she calls him and tells him a lot of stuff, but mostly you need to go to the police station and get these kids back because she wants them back in her care, custody, and control, and she has not yet gone back to Jody's where she would eventually be arrested.
She said, I have some explaining to do.
You think?
And she started to share with me that the two younger children were demonically possessed. I remember asking, how do you know? And she said, well, they've confessed to it.
Ruby tells Kevin, you need to go to the police station and you need to pick up our kids and bring them back here. And he was absolutely down to do this, even once he was shown evidence, because shortly after this conversation, the police are able to access a wall safe in Jody's house, which is like a safe room, and it's literally a safe room of horrors. This part super sucks, so if you need to go like 20 seconds ahead, totally understand.
That's when we found rope and handcuffs in the bottom drawer. Gauze, like the medical dressing for wounds. He mentioned like a cayenne pepper and honey paste, which was made to put on his wounds, and duct tape.
During the search of the house, the police were also able to locate the youngest Franke child, who was in a closet. She was similarly emaciated to her brother. She had had her head aggressively shaved and was just very, very scared. They sat in the closet with her for hours, ordered her pizza, got her drinks until she was comfortable coming out. The middle Franke children were still unaccounted for even after a raid of the Franke's primary residence. However, they were later found at a friend's house, safe and sound.
Just place your hands behind your back for me. Perfect. And then right now I can put a finger in each of these, okay? You don't have anything on you that I should know about, correct? Any weapons, anything that we're gonna find? She didn't ask questions. She didn't ask how the kids were.
The kids are accounted for. Jody is arrested. However, she still made the calls to Kevin before she showed up at Jody's house, right? So he goes to the police station and demands his kids back because he'd like to take them back to the situation that we just saw, and they start showing him pictures and they tell him this is what's been going on. And his biggest worry at that point is not implicating Ruby. Even the cop says, like, wow, you just kind of bailed on your kids? You haven't seen them in a year? Okay.
I received a message that I needed to come pick up my kids from the police department in Highlands.
And who was that message from?
Well, I prefer not to say right now.
Why did you not tell them who had called you?
I was afraid to do anything that would point them towards Ruby.
Why?
Because I was trying to protect her.
If he had spent even an ounce of energy on making sure the actual children were safe instead of always just being obsessive about Ruby, especially, they're not going to hold the kids just for no reason. They're not going to call you in. You're not going to be all over the 6 o'clock news, which they absolutely were, if it's nothing and it's a big made-up story.
I couldn't comprehend it. I couldn't understand it. It didn't make sense to me. I truly believed that they were lying to me. They even offered to show me some pictures, and I refused.
Why?
because I didn't want to be manipulated.
So say those kids had somehow gotten a hold of their dad and told him, Dad, this is what's going on. It's really bad here. We need help. He would not have helped them. He would have called them liars, told them that they were demons, and let Ruby continue what she wanted to do. After he's questioned, which again, there are very long videos about that. You can watch the whole thing. They have them here on TikTok, that whole thing. He goes home and Chad calls him and wants to go see his dad. So they sit down and Kevin starts explaining to Chad, yeah, this is why the kids are possessed. This is why your mom had to do what she did. And we're being lied to by literally everyone's lying. She's telling the truth. At this point, both of the women have been or will be questioned. Ruby stayed completely stone silent and just stared at the officers the entire time. Jody tried to manipulate them, but the manipulation tactics were so bad and obvious, even the cops were laughing and they're like, I started my job at night, but it wasn't last night.
So I get it. I sit on your side. I get it. I wish people didn't do that, but they do.
At this point, they are charged with 6 counts of aggravated CA, which is, it's TikTok. It gets a little funky sometimes. And no matter how much manipulation they wanted to use or being stone cold quiet or whatever, that didn't matter because Ruby needed to make herself a trophy.
On the nightstand, there's this blue folder. This is everything. Like, she's literally written down everything. It's the day-to-day recollection of events. I just remember as we went line by line that we were just in shock.
On top of what Ruby had documented herself, her son also explained very clearly what they had been going through.
We would be forced to stand in the sun all day long, being tied down to weights. He would have to jump on a trampoline all day. He had mentioned going out to Hellhole Road. It's just in the middle of the desert, and they were forced to run.
At this point, Kevin is still firmly on Ruby's side, and he's also brought Chad over there because remember, they've been convincing these kids that it's the end times and no unclean thing shall go up there and all of this stuff. Until finally, a friend of Kevin's comes over and is like, no, they didn't deserve that. They are not this, they are not that. Something horrible happened to them. You're their dad, and what is going on here? Now, Kevin claims this night he hugged his friend and he cried and this was his big aha moment. However, during the same time frame, he tried to bring legal proceedings against Sherry for going into her house after all this happened to get stuff that she was legally entitled to get. The cops literally looked at Kevin and they're like, you want us to, no. Life can't just be traced to these aha moments. Usually it's a process. Usually you have to figure some stuff out. And not to mention, if you had an aha moment and you realize what really happened and you can still love that person, well, I ain't never gonna understand you, that's for sure. I want to put them under the jail. Jody and Ruby both plead. There's evidence. There's a whole lot to 4 counts of what they've done. They are sentenced on each count to 1 to 15 years. So yes, that does mean that they could be out in 4 years. Let's cross our fingers, but our faith in that system isn't the greatest, right? They both give speeches, and I'm not even gonna play it because they aggravate me, but Ruby takes absolutely no responsibility. She was a mama duck who was led into this with her baby ducks and all that stuff. She still has not taken responsibility for what she did. Jody, her whole thing's just manipulation. So it's a sight to see.
The actions that she did are atrocious, but I still feel a longing. I miss her. All of the delivery rooms, all of the moments holding our children. It is easy for the world to hate that woman.
Yep.
And so many people want me to join in that chorus, and I cannot turn off all of those other memories.
Hey Kev, since it's just us here, can I ask you something? Did you do this documentary so that your children could find some healing and people could understand this story? Or did you do it to defend yourself? I don't know. Anyway.
Even though she abused the kids, you still love her.
Oh yeah.
In spite of still being in love with his wife, he has filed for divorce. Sherry says she will never speak to Ruby again. She does not call them mom and dad anymore, which I could not support that more. Chad said that he's worked on a lot of his stuff and understands a lot more what's going on, but he misses having a mother figure. And that's about it. So we are wrapped on this series. I hope you guys have a good day. And it was a rough one. This was a rough one, y'all. Anyway, I'll see you later.